All right, so for the next part of this chapter, we will go into the other theories. We're going to turn to Super's developmental theory. So Super developed a theory. This is his name. His name is Donald Super, called the lifespan life-space perspective. So why this is a developmental theory is it's stating that your career choices, your work prospects, all of this change throughout your life. So it's developmental in that it's going to be changing. What you're wanting now might be different than what you're wanting in 20, 30 years. So because of this, it's emphasizing the process of career development over time. How do people develop their careers, make these choices across their lifespan, from a child to all the way up to someone who's retired? And Super looks at these different stages of growth. And at each stage, there is different career developmental tasks. So it's not just a pick one career and then you're done for the rest of your life. At these different stages, they're going to be going through different things. So perhaps during childhood, people are being exposed to careers. When you go to the doctor, when you see the mail person come and drop off your mail, you're being exposed to different careers. In adolescence, you might begin exploring different career options for you. You start the work world, you find out what you like and what you don't like in jobs. Then in the third phase, during young adulthood, you're starting to get established into a career, um, putting down some roots, developing new skills. The fourth phase during maintenance is where you're keeping up those skills, getting deeper into perhaps a career. And then in older age, you leave a career. You might diminish your roles, you might retire, you might step back from certain responsibilities. So I put a superhero just to remind you that this is Super's theory. And some of the things that Super's theory emphasizes, this lifespan, life space perspective, is that this is important to our self-concept. How we view ourselves impacts our work decisions, what sort of work experiences we have impact our self-concept. So self-concept is a prominent part of the theory. The next is that this theory emphasizes how career choices are made. So how do people decide on their career path? It's not just always about fit. Sometimes people might be interested in something that's not a good fit, perhaps because there's lots of prestige or lots of money in a certain career, or it has good benefits. So Super is more interested in how people are making these career choices rather than just being a one-to-one fit based on personality. Super also emphasizes that we have multiple roles. We can be a student taking classes, we can have a job at the same time, so we're a worker, and we have free time, so we're what he calls a leisurite. And we have various roles at any one given time. And so Super developed a variety of assessments or tools that someone can take with a career counselor that can assess where someone is at in their career development. And some of these look at career maturity, assessment. So they'll assess where someone's at in their career maturity. They also might assess adaptability, other types of ways to assess various domains on career development. And Super developed these two visuals that they talk about in the book. The first is the life career rainbow. And the second is the archway of career determinants. So we'll first talk about the life career rainbow. And this will emphasize how salient or important someone's work is throughout their lifetime. So here's the life career rainbow. You can see from this visual that the age is up top. So when someone's a child, let's say 5 to 15, their primary role is to be a child, and then once they enter school is to become a student. So those are their main roles. And then as people age, they might start working, so they have a worker role. They might start voting, have a citizen role. They might start developing hobbies. That would be the leisurite, developing a parent role, a spouse role, and taking care of one's home. So all of these can be a variety of someone's roles in their lifetime. And what you'll notice is that worker role is not always the most important. So before you're working, for example, that role is not going to be as important. And then after you retire, that role is not as important. So the importance of these roles will grow and shrink depending on someone's life. So a parent's role might be particularly important while the child is growing up, and then it shrinks as the child gets older. Student, similarly, it might be a very important role as a young person, then might shrink as someone's older and they're not enrolled in school anymore. So this is just, again, to highlight that according to Super, the salience of our work, if we go back to the last slide, our work salience changes throughout our lifetime. It's not always going to be the most important role in our life. Other roles will come and go. And all of these roles impact the self-concept. Here's just another way to draw the life career rainbow, that maybe your student role goes from 5 to 60, your leisurite and recreationalist role goes for a certain period, your working role goes for a certain period, and so on. The other image that Super developed, this visual, is called the archway of career determinants. And again, Super is interested in, if we go back to this slide, how career choices are made. And this archway helps us determine how people make their career choices. So what are the things that determine someone's career? And Super believes it's these 3 factors that determine how people pick their careers. The first is personal factors. So people have things like values, they have interests, they have aptitudes and skills that go into picking their career. If a career goes against your values, you might not be interested in that career. If you don't have an interest in taxidermy, you might never have pursued that career. So your personal self plays a role in how you are picking your career options. Then we have cultural factors that also play into how you're picking your careers. So for example, when the economy is bad, certain careers might look more attractive than others. If the labor market is saying this is a hot field, you might be more interested in this field because it's growing and there might be job opportunities there. It also might depend on what you've been exposed to in your community and school. If you've never even heard of a computer scientist before coming to St. Mary's, you might not have ever considered it because you weren't exposed to it in your community or school or family. So these sociocultural factors also play a role in how people determine their career. And all of this goes up onto the conceptual, on how people think of themselves, how people pay attention to these roles in their lives as a parent, as a homemaker, as a leisurite, as a student, and so on. And so this is what forms the self and how people conceptualize and finally end up picking sort of careers that they're interested in. So that is Super's career theory. And the final type of career theory we're going to look at are the social learning theories. And we're going to specifically focus on Krumboltz. So Krumboldt's social learning theory emphasizes that we learn about careers through other people. We're socialized into a variety of different careers. And Krumboltz looks at these three things that as we grow, we're learning and are impacting our career choices. So the first is having positive outcomes. And this is where we are being rewarded, we're getting awards, good grades, etc. And these impact our career choices. And as you know, reinforcement, positive reinforcement, is a form of operant conditioning or instrumental learning. And so imagine someone who is going through school and they start noticing that they're getting A's and B's in math and science, and they're getting C's and B's in art. This might be a positive outcome that they're learning that, hey, I'm being rewarded for my skills in math and science, and I'm not really being rewarded for my skills in art. So people start learning through this reinforcement process that maybe they should pursue math and science. Someone else might be getting A's and B's in writing and literature and be struggling in biology. And so they're getting reinforced and rewarded by the writing classes, and they might pursue literature or journalism. And so these rewards, awards, and good grades shape what we think about for our own career choices. We can also be socially rewarded as people praise us. And this sort of leads into the next one, making positive associations. So we start to learn that certain jobs are associated with different things. And certain careers have more prestige associated with them. For example, I've often worked with high school students who say they want to be professional sports players. They want to be be an NBA star, because there's a lot of prestige and money associated with being an NBA player, for example. And so we learn through society which jobs have prestige in our society, which jobs have money. And I think this is why a lot of incoming freshmen want to be doctors or want to go to med school, is that our society says being a doctor has lots of prestige, you can earn a lot of money. Whereas other jobs that are just as maybe valuable or important to our society don't have the same prestige or the same money outcomes. So we're learning from society what is associated with what. And then finally, we can learn skills by observing someone else. So if you've ever done a job shadow, you're learning what someone might be doing in a certain occupation. When you go to the dentist, you're watching and observing what the dentist does. When you go to the post office, you're watching and observing what that job looks like. So we're learning through these social factors about careers, and then we make our decisions based on that. So Krumboltz asserts that there are certain components to a successful career development, and if these aren't met, they can lead to an unsuccessful career development. So the first area of these components are generalizations about the self and the world. So these are statements about the self based on their experiences. So someone might state, I think I'm a really good friend because I listen to them. I wonder if I want to be a counselor. I like listening to my friends and giving them advice. I enjoyed the role play. I could see myself being a counselor. So that would be a generalization about the self. Someone else might say, I could never be as warm as Carl Rogers. I could never be a counselor. I didn't enjoy the role plays, so I don't think I should pursue this. So that's a generalization about the self. And it can go lots of different directions. Also, there are generalizations about the world. These include stereotypes that people are making. So that someone might say, in my experience, nursing seems to be a job for women, and thus I'm not going to even pursue that field. So people are making these generalizations about the world of work and who this work is appropriate for. And if that generalization about the world may include them, like, oh, the world needs this job, I think I could be a good fit for this, that might lead to a successful career development. And the second component are these task approach skills. So in order to have career development, you have to follow certain steps. The first one would be setting goals. Does this career require a degree? How can I work towards that degree? Does it require a license? How do I gather information about this career? How do I plan to follow this career goal of mine? And so as people develop these skills, hopefully this can lead them along in their career development. When people have problems with one or more of these processes, this can either lead to inappropriate career choices or unfulfilling career choices and options for people. If they have problems setting goals, going after those plans, they might be sort of stunted in their career development. Or if they have poor generalizations about themselves or the world, that might also stunt their career choices. So Krumboltz has developed interventions to help people with their social learning about careers. So the first is that we need to reinforce career-seeking behaviors. So in high school, hopefully you were exposed to a guidance counselor who could help you think about post-high school plans, whether that's jumping into the career field right away or going to secondary education. And hopefully you were rewarded for thinking about these things and doing these things. Krumboltz also says that we need to provide models and presentations of occupational skills so that people can do job shadows and learn about the variety of careers so that they're not just reading about it, but actually seeing this firsthand and learning through these observational learning experiences. So this wraps up some of the theories behind career counseling, and now we're going to spend a little bit of time thinking about what a career counselor does day to day. And some common questions asked by career counseling clients include, how do I get a job? What should I choose? Who am I? How do I shape my career? How can I do better? And there are different type of agencies that specialize in these different questions. So job placement services might hire career counselors to help people find jobs. They're wanting a job now, they need an income, and job placement services might try to match them to a job. Personal counseling might help them figure out, who am I? What's best for me? What should I choose? And a human resources department might help with career advancement. How do I shape my career? How do I develop new skills and get new credentials to advance my career? So career counselors really run the gamut of different types and different interventions. And career counselors must think about, what is my objective as a career counselor? Which role am I in? And there's different roles that your book talks about. Some career counselors are in the developmental role. This might be a career counselor in a high school or middle school, where they're looking to help students, clients maximize their options, getting different kinds of experiences which will help them discover and develop their potential. So this would be a developmental role, helping people broaden their perspective and try to figure out where they're at and what they want to do. Career counselors can have a preventative role. So if there are difficulties that might come up in a certain career, career counselors might help them navigate that. How do they anticipate and work around these potential difficulties? So they can be in a preventative role with work or in a remedial role. Some career counselors work with people who they figured out their job is not for them. They don't have satisfaction in their job. They're not doing well. They're getting fired a lot. So something is going wrong or not working and needs to be addressed in counseling. So career counselors have to think about all these different types of roles and how are they helping their client? In which role are they acting in? So career counselors use a lot of different techniques. We call this an eclectic style where they might use some Gestalt techniques, some CBT techniques from a variety of different theoretical orientations, and they might focus on, some salient identity. Maybe the person wants to make sure they find a job that fits with them because they're a parent, or because of their gender. And so career counselors do a lot of assessment. They'll help people figure out their interests, their skills. They might inform them about the world of work and putting this together. How do they fit in the world? What are some variety of careers they could pursue? And they also help with this job finding, job getting, and job holding skills. So often, like for example, your career development center at the college will help you do some of these things. Help you look for internships, connect you with different jobs. The final few slides are just some other topics related to career development and career counseling. Oftentimes, people will come to a career counselor because they're indecisive. They don't know what they want to do. And there's two types of indecisiveness. There's an undecided client who just hasn't made up their mind yet. They don't know what they want. Um, they haven't maybe given it much thought. They're just undecided. Or there's the indecisive clients who likely have a lot of anxiety and might struggle with some decision-making skills. They jump back and forth. These are the people who um, switch majors multiple times because they can't make up their mind. And career counselors should know, okay, these are two different types of clients that might need different skills. It's not just exposing them to different careers and figuring out what they want, but how do they go ahead and make those decisions? And so there's a variety of assessments that can be done to help determine which phase someone's in and help them with a treatment plan of how to move beyond getting out of this phase. So counselors have to think about how do we deal with indecisive clients? And the standard approach of about learning about oneself and learning about the world of work might not be the best fit for all clients. Sometimes it's about learning to manage anxiety or learning to um, commit and make decisions. The final slide or final topic that I want to talk about with career counseling is this idea of how much of this really overlaps with personal counseling. So some people think of personal counseling and career counseling as totally separate, that personal counseling addresses issues like family issues, depression, anxiety, relationships, religion, these things that people are struggling with. And they see those very different and very separate from career counseling. That's thinking about jobs, career choices, skills, interests, passions, work issues. And so historically, these have sort of been seen as separate. Although some people are saying that they're somewhat fused, that they should be more together. So your book talks about how personal counseling and career counseling aren't necessarily separate issues. Someone's personal life is going to affect their career decisions, and someone's work life is going to affect their personal life. So it's not easy to separate these two. And within the world of counseling psychology, there's different views on how to treat someone who has both personal and career related concerns. Some people say you should treat one before the other. So if we can help them with their depression and relieve that, then we can move on to their career indecision. Other people argue that there's really no difference between the two, that we should be treating the whole person holistically, that if they're struggling with career, that's probably impacting their depression, and their depression is impacting their career choices. So there's these sort of contentious views about should we keep them separate or should we fuse them more? And the most recent sort of shift in perspective in this realm of personal and career counseling is that we need to stop, as career counselors, just focusing on helping people develop careers, but think more broadly about how helping people construct lives through work and relationships. So maybe career has been sort of put on a pedestal too much, and we need to focus more broadly on um, their whole life, which includes work, but also includes other things. So, a final question that has a student wrote in one of their response papers, and just it's a thought-provoking question. Um, the student wrote, "I'm curious what would hurt one's mental health more, having a job they don't like, but having lots of money and they never have to stress about bills, or having a job that they do like and they live paycheck to paycheck." This is an interesting and thought-provoking question, and we don't have a ton of research on this, but it probably depends on how much someone values their work and how much they value that their work is congruent with their interests. If some people say work is work, I've heard people say, I just go get my paycheck, I'm not passionate about my work, then maybe having a job they don't like isn't a problem. But for someone who wants to do something where work is really important to them and passionate, maybe having a job they like is very important. So, just something to think about as we wrap up this chapter on career. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Thanks so much.